Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kansept Knives Mato or Mato. I'm going to assume that it's Mato. This knife is available right now. I will link it right down in the description for you guys to check out. I think the price is pretty fair. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Thanks so much to Kansept for providing this knife for review. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. Overall length of this knife is coming in. We have some debris on there. I'm going to actually wipe that blade off real quick so it doesn't look like I peppered the blade before the review. Just got to season it first. Overall length is coming in at about 7. I'm going to say 7.65. Blade length is coming in at about 3 1/4. Cutting edge is also coming in at about 3. I think just a hair shy of 3 1/4. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? This guy's kind of in between, maybe closer to the size of the Rat 2, but it's got a little more full-size knife presence. Much closer to the overall size of the Demco 8020.5. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3 and the Spyderco PM2? And then I think last but not least we'll do the Benchmade Bug Out and the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. How's the action on this guy? Well, it's fine. I really think that there should have been a lot more access right here. They have cut this liner out, but if they had just matched the scale, it would have been way better for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's not that it's hard to disengage the liner lock. It certainly would be easier though. But number two, and they probably should have started from out here, it would have made this area, it would have made this area much easier to access for a thumb flick, which you really can just barely do. And then also doing it on the other side, or just carving this a little lower, would have made this area much easier to access. I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, it's like the only thing that you lose here is it changes the overall shape of this scale, which who cares, right? Functionally, that would have just been way better. You can front flip it, but it's a little weird because there's not really a horn. It's just got some steps, right? So, okay, deployment's all right. It's just a little bit weird. It's a little bit quirky. It's kind of like you have to work at it. It's a little bit of a chore to deploy it, but you can get it and you'll get used to it for sure. This is something that I feel like if somebody modified, it would be almost perfect. But as it sits, it's just a little bit weird. The action itself is actually pretty good. It almost wants to fall shut, which is nice, right? So the action's okay. How about carry profile? Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. We have full liners, full steel liners, and some pretty thick, it's like carbon fiber with a piece of like layered G10 laid into it. Yeah, it's nice, right? It's actual full carbon fiber as far as I can tell. Not a laminate. That's carbon fiber all the way through, and then this is like the layered G10, so that's cool. But yeah, it's a little thicker. Not that big of a deal. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here this guy is about the same overall length as the Para 3. Just a little longer and a little bit shorter. The hump on the Para 3 is still clearing it. So in the pocket, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You might notice the thickness. S35VN for the blade steel, which is nice. That's a nice steel at this price point, and Kansept does a pretty decent job with it. Full steel liners is going to make this a little heavier than some people might prefer, but 4.6 ounces isn't that big of a deal. It's not a perfect ounce an inch or anything like that, and the weight is, or the balance is a little butt heavy, but not really that big of a deal. So I think it really depends on what you're used to carrying. I don't think this is going to be too far outside the norm for many people. Let's go ahead and get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Kaiser likes their T8 pivots, so there we go. And then your body screws are all, it's probably underneath here, underneath this scale, which you'll apparently need to take off these two, and then the pocket clip screws to access, but there'll be a couple of screws almost inevitably underneath here, and my guess is, based on Kansept's track record, a T6. You might be wondering, why don't you take it apart and show us? I'll tell you why. It's because it's the same type of thing over and over and over again, and it's really not to that much benefit. Even if it ends up not being the same thing underneath there, we can all pretty much expect that whatever is underneath there, it's really not that complicated because there's no reason to do it. If you are brand new to knives, there are certain indicators that tell us yes, right? Based on the brand, the tier that we're in, and what they're using on the outside, there are indicators as to what's going to be underneath. And the variables are just not that many when we're looking at a knife like this. So even if there's a little bit of a surprise under there, or there's one more or less, I mean, that's the only surprise that I could think of, more or less screws. It's probably T6, and there probably aren't that many. This is what we call a sandwich construction knife, because we have G10, and then we have steel liners, then we have a backspacer, and then it's the same on the other side, so it kind of looks like layers to a sandwich. And it's a liner lock. So there's really only so much that could be going on under there. Nobody has ever complained, but if you've ever wondered, why don't you do it? Now you know. Because it takes too much time. Much like me explaining why I don't do it. Master of irony. Let's go ahead and... what do we got next? Oh, let's measure the blade stock thickness here. I'm sure that somebody's going to type me up a lengthy paragraph as to why I should do it every single time. And you do that. I'll do it when I see fit, or if I find that there's, this is my answer to that paragraph. Even if you type the paragraph after I say this is my answer to it anyway. I will do it when I know that there is a complicated disassembly, or there's some unique mechanism, right? That's when I'll do it. And I will probably miss it sometimes, but I'll do my best. I've done a pretty good job of it over the last 3,400 uploads, so I'll continue to just do it the same way that I'm doing it. No, you can't do it that way. Let me tell you. The blade stock thickness is 100 and it says 114, 115,000. So on the thinner side. It's on the thinner side. Let's move on here into the meat and potatoes. The handle shape kind of reminds me of TRM, but you know what? That's fine. It's not a copy because seriously, it's just a handle, right? There's not really anything distinctive going on here with the handle, right? It's ergonomically comfortable. Even the pocket clip isn't bad. I think they could have shortened this. The pocket clip is just a little long, but it's fine. You can definitely choke up right behind the blade. No idea why they didn't put jimping back here. I think that would have been fine. The edges are a little bit sharp. They're not sharp, but they could have been chamfered a little bit more. It's impressive that they did carbon fiber and G10. I will point out that when you do this, when you lay something into carbon fiber, it's really hard not to see little areas where it's kind of frayed, right? Because carbon fiber likes to be voidy. So especially when it's black and there's carbon fiber really shows imperfections because of how it reflects light. Those types of things, especially I think we can see over here. It's kind of, it's neat, but they probably should have just gone full carbon fiber or full layer G10. Doing this, the people who are going to buy this stuff are definitely going to get in and look at that and just be like, eh. Now, I could have gotten a goofy one, right? But unless you can do this perfectly, even at this price point, I would say don't do it. Do one or the other. I would have been just fine with this price with carbon fiber, and I would have been if it was all the layered G10, right? But just that's my thoughts on that. You got the two screws holding this apparently in right here, so I don't know. I think it's a long way to go for such a mediocre result, right? But if you're not bothered by it, then okay, knock yourself out. They have the same belt satin finish that we see a lot on their blades. It's fine. The blade is also fine. It's a simple drop point blade with a little bit of a flat here. Everything looks good, and their cutting edge is decent, and the actual thinness behind the edge is okay. It's not an absolute laser beam, but it'll do. It'll work, right? And the best thing about this really is the overall build quality, because these are solid knives, and the fact that you have a utilitarian ergonomic, handle shape, you have a utilitarian blade profile, and you have it in S35VN. It would have been much better if they had carved out these areas on the handle. And it also would have made for a better ergonomic lock-in without forcing you to be absolutely in that area. We just need a long enough cut and a rounded enough transitional area. Just way overcomplicated for how simple this knife review is. I just see a lot of opportunities for this thing to be better, right? So yeah, of course, Kansept likes to put stuff all over the place, like all these codes, right? They got the Kansept logo, and then we have this code, even though it's small, right? It's like, why? Why do you guys have to put KO25530294556 potato Frito pie Tyrannosaurus Rex? Why do you have to put all that stuff on it? Nobody else has to do that, right? Put it on the ins. Put it underneath. Put the code underneath so we don't have to see it, right? And that way, if you need it for reference or something, then you can just look at it. You take the part out, take the knife apart, and then look at it, right? We also have to put this. That's the designer's name. That's fine. And then Mato. I'm gonna give you guys a look at the designer. I'm actually unfamiliar with the designer, but I still want to make sure that the name is able to be seen. It's actually kind of hard because of the position they put it in. Anyways, yeah. This will, you can definitely get this knife out, hang on to it. There's not really much of a lock-in, but you can hang on to it reasonably, in a comfortable fashion. We've got a decent cutting geometry, good utilitarian blade shape. It's all there. Good steel. S35EN is wonderful. It's no longer king of the castle or anything like that, but it's good. And we shouldn't forget that it is absolutely good. Even with the kind of generic heat treatment that companies like Kansept apply to it, it's still fine. There is no mounting position for lefties. When it comes to the pocket clip, it's just for righties. Really should be adding a position for lefties, or, loop it around and stick it in here so that you don't have to look at the little slot milled out, right? In this case, it's not. It's literally just sitting up on top of the scale, which makes it even worse because you could have done the same thing on the other side. Nobody really cares about looking at a hole. And if they do, I can't really say that I consider that a valid complaint. I think you can pretty much ignore those people who say they don't want to look at excess screw holes. I think left-handed people being able to buy and carry the knife comfortably are more important than whether or not a few people have to look at a screw hole, right? And if you're about to complain about that, I'm talking directly to you. I think your complaint is invalid. Shut up. Let lefties carry the knives. Let them. It's ridiculous. There's no lanyard thing. Not going to stick up for lanyard people. Sorry. There's just way less. I mean, listen, that's not a thing that causes people to not be able to carry it. A lot of people are like, you never go to bat for lanyard people. Well, there's 7 of them. Left-handed people, it's 10% of the population. That's huge, right? And it actually keeps them from, properly and safely carrying the knife. Otherwise, they got to put it in their right-handed pocket. That makes it harder for them because they're freaking left-handed. It's not like they got to choose at the beginning, before creation. They're like, okay, so do you want to be, you can choose here. If you want to be left-handed, you get in this line. And if you want to be right-handed, then you get in this line, right? And you gotta choose, right? The world's definitely made for right-handed people, okay? But if you wanna be left-handed, you wanna say, hey, I'm gonna go hard mode, okay? I'm a veteran. Start off in hard mode. Well, come on over here to the left-handed side. They didn't have that choice. They just got blasted into existence. Oh crap. Well, I'm left-handed, right? Oh, I love knives. Knives are so cool. Oh, dang it, all of them are made for right-handed people, right? So shut up about the lanyard thing. That makes no sense. It's not a valid argument. Having to look at a screw hole is not a valid complaint, right? And not sticking up for lanyard people as if there's an organization, right? No, that doesn't oh no, I can't carry it because I can't attach a lanyard to it. Said 4 people in the entirety of human existence. No, I can't be bothered with it. No, you sit down. Okay. If you guys are wondering, he's gone almost 15 minutes and there was no rant. What's going on? Well, there it is, right? You finally found it. Timestamp it for people in the comments. Anyways, people who don't understand that I'm halfway joking will still write me up a report on, they're going to give me a bunch of demerits. They're going to be like, now listen here.
I got a real problem with you, buckaroo. All right, I'm gonna seriously consider unsubscribing. I think that rant was uncalled for, and I've laid out bullet points here, and I'm gonna list them in order of least important to most important. Why I think so. Great, I'll get right after reading that. Let's go ahead and talk more about the knife. There's a stop pin located internally, and they write on little channels on the inside of the frame, which is nice. You don't have to look at the stop pin if you really hate that. I'm really indifferent, but it does add an additional point of contact versus a traditionally placed stop pin, so that's nice. Add some solidity to lockout while maintaining good centering and good action. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No double clutchy situation or anything like that. It's just a little bit of hard access to the liner itself. No pivot lash. Reasonably smooth on the inside. It's concepty, right? It's never going to feel like ultra Crisco glass smooth, right? But it's fine, and eventually gravity might allow it to fall shut. And there's a decent kind of a thuddy detent. I would call it medium light, which is appropriate considering it's actually kind of laborious to deploy. The centering is good. Is a little off. Maybe slightly. I would imagine a quick turn of the pivot might fix that. He's coming at 140, 141? If I say 140, somebody will get on me. 141. Not bad. Especially if you look at the materials on paper and if you look at Kansept's build quality, right? Yes, I know these are made in China. If you didn't know, they're made in China. Nobody's trying to hide that, right? There's a bunch of companies in this territory making knives in China that are, it's an absolutely appropriate price zone. 140 for the materials I think is fine. The build quality is good. It's a little bit sloppy on the inlay work, and I think that's largely due to the materials, the nature of the materials. Laying something into carbon fiber is tricky, and it sometimes results in everything looking a little poopy. So yeah, full carbon fiber, or, do titanium and lay carbon fiber into the titanium and charge slightly more. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Kansept could do this in titanium for right around the same price. I like the blade steel. This thing has the potential to be really, really good, and instead it's just kind of, it's okay. It's not something I'm going to say you should definitely be like beating down doors to go and buy. It's not my favorite knife in the whole world. If you like it and you can choke down the issues that I laid out there, you might not consider them issues, in which case you might find significantly more value in this knife, right? I don't think it's a bad purchase, but it's not the most amazing knife of all time. Far from it. It's actually kind of a little bit boring and a little bit kind of run of the mill, right? Lefty pocket clips. It's a big thing. Let's do that. The other thing I'm going to start complaining about more is the lack of a captive pivot. It's 2023. D-shaped pivot barrels. D-shaped pivot barrels. There is no reason to have a pivot that forces you to use 2 drivers and 2 bits. No. D-shaped pivot barrels. Captive pivots. You don't even have to have a D-shaped pivot barrel. You can make the pivot whatever shape you want and nest it into the scale material around it so it doesn't turn, right? There's lots of different shapes, right? There's squares and rectangles and triangles, basically anything but a circle will stop it from turning. So consider doing that. That would be great. That's going to be pretty much it today. Like I said, this knife will be listed right down in the description, so you can check it out if you want to. Thanks again to Kansept for sending it in for me to take a look at. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.